Welcome, no laughing. Welcome to the Powered Paragliding Show. I'm here with Jeff Goin and Paul Anthem. We're going to talk a little bit about wheels. What's new with wheels? First of all, doing a lot of training now. One of my pet peeves, or any instructor, is always have a place to land. And we talk about that. It's one of the very most important things. But it strikes me that the definition of a safe place to land is different with foot launch than it is with wheels. Agreed?
Yeah.
How is it different?
It's not a lot different because, you're only going a little bit faster with the wheels. And if you land and run into something, it's not going to be the end of the world. But the fact is that you can't move your feet away from stuff. The wheels are going to be wider. So, yeah, it needs a little bit more room.
It's two subjects, really. It's finding a good, launch and landing place, but then also the emergency landing. If you're landing in a plowed field what would be the areas that you could do with foot launch and you couldn't do with wheels?
I think that it's just a matter of degree. For one thing, water is always bad. Let's face it, that has the highest lethality of any landing location you can choose. Don't go into the water. Don't let your wing go into the water. But outside of that, if you landed in a field like crop, it's more a matter of convenience than safety, I think.
Right.
But how the heck are you going to get that thing out of corn, tall corn? Ugh.
You're not.
Right. Yeah. I'm sure we've all seen both land in tall corn, a foot launch, and wheels.
Yeah.
And they both come out they both aren't hurt. Now, I guess my question is, when you're landing wheels, let's say you have to land wheels in a field of tall crops or something. Are those wheels going to catch and spin you over, and it's going to be more dangerous than if you were?
Good question, Jeff.
That is a good question. I think in the examples of people who have landed in corn, I have not yet heard of anybody being hurt. I've heard of damaging the equipment from that sort of thing. We had one there in Indiana.
Yes, Will.
Yeah.
Will Jones went right over the corn, and he wasn't landing. But he was completely unharmed.
Yeah. So, and I know that Nick Schultes has gone into corn with Barney, and that was a tandem unit, and nobody was ever hurt. So I think that with the wings supporting it, even if you do go on the nose wheel, it doesn't seem like it's real. In fact, I don't think that Will's gear was even damaged, nor was Barney when Nick did it. So mostly it's just convenience. However, I wouldn't be as likely to go into a really narrow spot, possibly. But even then, I don't think it's a safety risk so much.
Okay. All right. The other question I have is, and I've spoken with some other instructors on this, and one guy will say, which is I think the traditional approach is, like when you're foot launching, the quickest thing to do to get under the wing is, to fix the wing falling off to the side is to get under it, obviously. You can't do that as quickly with wheels, but the evolution from foot launch to wheels, has people talking about, okay, steer underneath the wing. Another guy instructor I was speaking with the other day said, no, the best thing to do is to just, forget about trying to steer under it. Just concentrate on the wing and fly it over.
I'm 100% with that person, and here's why. This is mostly from an observational perspective. Most pilots who try to steer under the wing over control. It's almost universal. Yep. If they steer, they're going to over control and wind up launching in an oscillation, which is a good way to break a bone. So if I think that you should almost lock the nose wheel or give it maybe a 1 degree of motion and get the pilot good enough to control the wing, get it overhead, and then launch without having to steer.
Jeff, I have to interject on this, and even though I know nothing about wheel launching, from what I've seen, I have to agree with you 100%. The people I've seen that were maybe not so familiar with wheels and they tried to steer under it, they were just going zigzagging all over the place, and you're right. It got into dangerous oscillation. Finally, when they took off, they were, God knows. But the ones I saw where the wing came up completely sideways, and they just said, hey, I'm just going straight, slow and easy. And the wing eventually popped up over, straightened up over top of them, they took off.
All right. Okay, I got another question for you guys.
One more comment on that, though, is I've got a piece in the video about launching with wheels, and in support of that, I had an experienced wheel pilot launch intentionally with the wing tip on the ground. So, and he just kept steering straight, brought the wing up overhead, then launched.
What was the purpose of that?
It was to demonstrate how you can have the wing all the way over to the side, and if you let off on the brakes, let it fly, then control the wing overhead, you'll have good results.
Okay. All right, another question. I've heard instructors say, okay, bring the wing up, get everything going, and then as the wing is just over your head, you bobble the throttle, which, is, I'm not sure I agree with that. I think what you need to do, like any other launch, is you got to control the surge. So when the wing comes up, obviously you got to make sure it doesn't frontal and fly over you. But the throttle bobbage seems like, just doesn't do much.
I don't understand what you mean by bobble the throttle.
They train the students to bring the wing all the way up and then hesitate as it's coming forward, I guess, so you don't have to dampen the surge. But I think dampening the surge is something that you got to be prepared to do. I guess on the other hand, with wheels, you're not going to be launching in too great. It's not like a wild reverse and a high wind reverse. You can't do that with wheels. Obviously, you can't do any reverse.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So you're saying kind of take the throttle and squeeze it in and out so that you're not at full throttle.
Yeah.
That way, yes.
But just a little bobble of that. But, I fly at the beach, and, you pretty much have to have full power, to get things moving. And, then at a certain speed, the wing comes up overhead. And if you need to dampen the surge, you do. But, anyway, I think it just.
My observation on it is, for one thing, the student must be able to dampen the surge before they ever get to the point of power. If they're not good enough to recognize, hey, the wing's about to overfly me, I need brakes, then they probably shouldn't have power, or they're going to put the wing in the prop.
But when you explain to them how expensive that is to frontal
right.
with the wing, prop, cage, I call it the Grand Slam.
Right. And then the other thing is that, it seems the best technique would be to back off on the power. And I know this is more to learn, but at least it's all on the ground. So you back off on the power to the point where you're steering the wing, and you're not taking off. You're inflating into a taxi. And then once everything is straight, the wing is tracking straight, and you're tracking in the same direction as the wing, now you go to power.
And that's what I do on my foot launch people even. I learned from the wheel guys, that get the wing up, get everything straight, get flying, let it settle down, and then go to full power.
Right.
So, all right, parting thoughts. I got less than a minute.
Wheels I've found them to be easier, I'm sure you have, for new students to handle and to master. And so it's a good thing. And we've got lots of stuff we can cover on wheels.
Real quickly, what's easier, going from wheels to free foot launch or foot launch to wheels? What's easier?
I would say foot launch to wheels.
Yeah, because you build others.
Yeah.
But wheels sometimes fall off.
Yeah,
and
that's
happened. Another story from Phil Atkinson.
I just saw that the other day. It was a Quicksilver landed on the beach. The wheel fell right off. Okay, that's it. You're listening to the Powered Paragliding Show. I'm Michael Purdy with Jeff Goin and Paul Anthem.